I was teaching confirmation at one of our congregations, and I had with me two of the Hungarian students from the Roma College. The lesson did not take quite as long as I thought, and I had a couple of minutes left over. So I asked the first Roma student to talk about how her faith has affected her life. And she stood up and told the class a very emotional story about trying to be a student at the university, how the other students wrote her nasty notes and sent her evil messages about how they don't even want to be in the same room with a Roma student. But she said because of her faith, she could just cling to Jesus and know that she would be all right. It was very moving, but I didn't want to leave the class in that mood, so I asked the second student if she'd like to talk about how her faith affects her life. And she stood up and said that her older brother had just died and no one knows why, and that she was devastated, and that before she had been a person who rarely went to church. But when she learned about the grace of God and the mercy of God through the death of her brother, and now she clings in her grief to Jesus, and it gives her strength. And the class was in tears and completely overwhelmed. So I turned to a college student who was there, who I knew really well, and I asked him if he would talk about faith in his life, thinking this would surely, get the class back and some emotional stability before I left them to go home. And he stood up and he said, well, as a matter of fact, my whole life I've struggled with mental illness. I have anxiety, I have depression, I have attention disorders, and I take a lot of medicine and see a therapist, but it's really my faith in Jesus. I cling to Jesus, and that gives me the strength to get up on days I can barely get myself out of bed. It was so moving and powerful. But the most powerful moment was when all the children left, except one student who no other student talked to, one student who sat in the corner staring out the window the whole time, one student who continually rocked during class, sort of comforting himself, one student who I knew had been diagnosed with his own emotional problems. And he came up to the college student. It was so amazing. He said, "So, you have mental health problems, and it can be okay." And he told him, yes, clinging to Jesus, you're going to be okay.